Stop wasting life. Seneca's Stoic lessons on time. The hour you think you own. You wake up each morning believing that the day is yours. You look at the clock, at the schedule you created, at the appointments carefully marked, and you feel as though time belongs to you. You convince yourself that you own the hours ahead, that tomorrow is secured, that next week is already waiting patiently for you, yet this belief is nothing more than a comforting lie. The truth, as Seneca insisted, is that the only time you possess is the present moment, and even that slips away as soon as you attempt to hold it. The hours you think you own are not yours. They are promises written on air. The only wealth you can ever truly claim is the breath moving through you right now. Look around, and you will see the evidence everywhere. People spend their lives trading the certainty of today for the hope of tomorrow. They defer joy, postpone decisions, and imagine that they will live fully once circumstances align. They think, I will start after the promotion, after the children are older, after I have more money, after I feel ready. Yet what they fail to see is that this chain of delays never ends. The moment you wait for never arrives because time is not waiting. It is moving forward, indifferent to your hesitation, erasing your future as you dream of it. Each day you postpone life, you are not saving time, you are losing it. Seneca's wisdom cuts with painful precision. People guard their possessions with ferocity, but squander their hours with carelessness. If someone steals money from them, they rage. If someone wastes their time, they often shrug. Yet money can be regained, objects can be replaced, but time is irretrievable. The hours you let slip into nothingness are gone forever. To live as though you own tomorrow is to live in a state of constant theft, stealing from yourself the very resource that defines your existence. Think of how you speak about your future. You say, next year I will travel. Someday I will write that book. Soon I will focus on my health. Eventually I will spend more time with my family. Each statement is made with confidence, as if the future is already written in your favor. But none of it exists. Next year is a shadow. Someday is a fantasy, eventually is a mirage. The only time that ever belonged to you is this instant, and every plan that ignores this truth builds a castle on sand. You cannot store life in a vault. You cannot lock it away and return to it later. You can only live it as it arrives or lose it while imagining that it waits for you. The greatest error is to confuse preparation with living. Many spend their years in constant rehearsal, telling themselves they are getting ready for the moment when real life begins. They gather degrees, accumulate possessions, chase promotions, all under the illusion that soon they will be free to enjoy the life they have been building. But life is not rehearsal. It is the performance already taking place, and every day you wait for it to start is a day that ends in silence, unclaimed, forgotten. Seneca warned that nothing is more foolish than to live as if you had endless time. Those who delay are like soldiers polishing their armor while the battle rages around them. They never fight because they believe the right moment is still ahead. By the time they realize the battle was already fought, the war is over. There is a profound arrogance in the way we think about time. We act as if the universe owes us another decade, another year, another morning. We imagine we can squander this day because tomorrow is guaranteed. But the truth is, each sunrise is a gift not promised. Each night you lie down to sleep is a reminder that you may not open your eyes again. To recognize this truth is not morbid, it is liberating. It tears away the illusion that life can be delayed. It awakens you to the urgency of the present. When you see that you own nothing beyond this hour, you begin to live differently. Every conversation matters. Every small act becomes significant. Every choice carries weight. Seneca's message is not meant to frighten but to awaken. He does not call us to despair over mortality, but to recognize the power of presence. Life is not short, he said, if you know how to use it. The tragedy is not that death takes us too soon, but that we waste so much before it arrives. We are not robbed of years, we throw them away. We imagine we are saving life for later, when in truth we are spending it on nothing. The person who spends his days wisely does not live a short life no matter how many years he is given. The person who wastes his days lives a long death, even while still breathing. So ask yourself with honesty, Are you living this hour, or are you waiting for another? Are you guarding this moment as if it were your only possession, or are you treating it like spare change, tossed away as if more will always come? The answer to that question defines not only how you spend your days, but who you become. Because you are not the plans you make, nor the dreams you defer. You are the actions you take now. You are the choices you make in this very breath. You are the use or the loss of this hour. Time is not yours to own. It is yours only to use. Every instant you recognize this, you reclaim power over your life. Every instant you ignore it, you surrender yourself to illusion. Remember this as you step into the next moment. The hour you think you own is already slipping away. Hold it, live it, guard it, because once it is gone, it will never return. The marketplace of lost days. Walk into the center of any city, and you will see a marketplace alive with trade. Merchants shouting, buyers bargaining, coins exchanging hands. Yet beyond the stalls and noise, there is another marketplace, one far more dangerous, one where the currency is invisible but priceless. It is the marketplace of lost days, and every one of us is a participant in it. Seneca warned that people are not stingy with their wealth, but with their time. They are the most prodigal of all. They spend hours as if they were worthless tokens, traded away for distraction, for approval, for obligations that drain the soul, but add nothing to life. This is the hidden economy where lives are exchanged for trivialities. Think of how often you hand over your hours. You attend endless meetings that solve nothing. You scroll through screens in search of entertainment that leaves you emptier than before. You agree to commitments that have no meaning, only because you fear disappointing someone else. Each moment is bartered away to merchants of distraction and merchants of vanity, and in the end, you are left with nothing of value. Seneca's clarity burns through the centuries. The most costly expense in life is wasted time, yet people throw it away more carelessly than coins dropped into a beggar's hand. In this marketplace, there are countless stalls competing for your attention. The stall of ambition, promising recognition if you trade enough years for titles. The stall of envy, demanding your peace of mind in exchange for illusions of status. The stall of indulgence, luring you with comfort that only weakens you further. But every trade is unfair because what you give cannot be returned. You can always earn more money, but you cannot reclaim a single hour once it has been surrendered. What you lose here is not just time, but fragments of your life that should have been lived with depth. Notice how people defend their possessions. They lock their homes, they guard their savings, they argue fiercely if someone cheats them of money. Yet when entire years are taken from them by pointless obligations, they surrender without protest. They give themselves away for free, not realizing that the theft is worse than robbery, because money can be restored, but time is irretrievable. The marketplace thrives because people do not recognize the value of what they are trading. They believe they are rich in time, that they can afford to waste it. But in truth, they are impoverished, and every careless bargain makes them poorer still. The tragedy is that many people even boast about their losses. They wear busyness as a badge of honor, announcing how many hours they have sacrificed to work, to noise, to endless distraction. They confuse being occupied with being alive, as though the mere act of spending hours is proof of value. But to live well is not to be consumed in the marketplace. It is to step outside of it. It is to see clearly that your days are not commodities to be traded, but treasures to be guarded. Seneca's reminder is relentless. If you do not choose where your time goes, others will choose for you, and the bargain will never favor you. Think of the merchants you have paid today. Did you give your hours to trivial gossip, to hollow entertainment, to duties you accepted out of fear rather than purpose? Did you surrender your peace to comparison, your energy to resentment, your focus to noise? Each of these trades feels small, yet the accumulation of them is your life. By the time you notice the cost, the marketplace is closing, and you're left with regrets stacked higher than any profit you gained. The question then is whether you will continue as a careless customer, or whether you will become the master of your trade. Life demands that you spend time, but it does not demand that you waste it. You can invest your hours with intention, choosing where they go, ensuring that each one purchases growth, clarity, strength, and love. The difference is not subtle, it is absolute. A wasted hour is death. A well-spent hour is life. When you recognize this truth, the marketplace transforms. You no longer chase worthless goods, no longer barter with thieves. You spend deliberately, guarding your time as the highest treasure. And as Seneca knew, the one who spends time wisely is never poor, because he has found the one currency that can never be stolen once it has been fully lived: the silent erosion of identity. Time wasted is never neutral. It does not simply vanish into the air. It leaves a trace, a mark, a silent wound that changes who you are. Seneca warned that when we neglect the hours given to us, we do not only lose time, we lose ourselves. Every delay, every distraction, every careless surrender of the present moment erodes the foundation of identity. The man who wastes his days does not remain the same man. He becomes smaller, weaker, blurred by the passing years until he no longer recognizes himself. The erosion is so gradual that it feels invisible, yet it is constant, shaping a life of shadows rather than substance. Consider how habits of wastefulness alter the self. A person who begins by ignoring the call to action becomes a person defined by inaction. A person who fills his hours with trivialities becomes trivial himself. What begins as a single wasted afternoon slowly hardens into a wasted character. You cannot separate your life from your time, because your life is your time. To throw away one is to corrode the other. Each unclaimed hour carves away a part of who you might have been, leaving behind only fragments of potential never fulfilled. This is why idleness is more dangerous than it appears. Not because stillness itself is harmful, but because wasted time reshapes the inner landscape. The neglected day leaves the mind duller, the will weaker, the spirit less alert. People imagine they can return to themselves whenever they choose, as if identity waits patiently for their attention. Yet identity is built by use, not stored in reserve. A life neglected becomes a life defined by neglect. The longer you abandon yourself to distractions and empty pursuits, the more you become someone who knows nothing else. Look at those who have allowed decades to pass in carelessness. They speak of dreams they once had, ambitions they once felt, passions they once carried. Yet their words are empty, because those selves are gone. They are not merely delayed, they have dissolved. Time wasted has turned possibility into memory, and memory into regret. They may still breathe, still walk, still speak, but the person they could have been has long since eroded into dust. Seneca's warning becomes clear. The greatest loss is not the hours themselves, but the self that is lost with them. The danger is subtle because the erosion is quiet. It does not announce itself with sudden tragedy. It whispers in small habits: the evening wasted in distraction, the morning lost to idleness, the decision postponed until tomorrow. One day becomes another, and slowly the days become years. By the time the person looks back, the life he once imagined is no longer possible. The erosion has already done its work. The tragedy is not that death arrives, but that life has already been surrendered long before. This is why vigilance over time is not simply practical, but existential. To guard your hours is to guard your soul. To let them slip away is to allow your very identity to be carried off by the current of indifference. Seneca urged us to live as if each day were an entire life. For in truth, it is. Each day shapes who you are, what you believe, and how you stand in the world. The man who lives deliberately builds a self of strength and clarity. The man who drifts builds a self of weakness and regret. You cannot hope to reclaim what is already eroded, but you can choose to stop the erosion now. By seizing the hour before you, by refusing to waste the moment at hand, you draw a line against the slow decay of self. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but this hour is alive, and in it, you can rebuild. The choice is always here: to allow yourself to dissolve unnoticed, or to live with such intent that no passing moment can rob you of your identity. The silent erosion of identity is not inevitable. It is the consequence of neglect. Guard your hours with discipline, and the self you shape will stand unshaken. Ignore them, and you will watch yourself fade, not in death, but in wasted living. Seneca's voice reaches across centuries to remind us The greatest theft is not of years, but of the person you might have been. Time as a moral currency. When most people think of time, they imagine numbers on a clock, dates on a calendar, or minutes rushing past in silence. They treat time as if it were a neutral measurement, a background against which life happens. Seneca teaches us otherwise. Time is not neutral. It is moral. Every moment you spend reveals your values, your priorities, the very essence of your character. How you use your hours is who you are. Waste them on trivialities and you become trivial. Invest them in virtue, in clarity, in love, and you become strong, deliberate, unshakable. Time is not simply passing, it is judging. Each second is a witness to the life you have chosen. Think of how money works. People obsess over how to spend it, save it, invest it. They make budgets, they track accounts, they measure every purchase against cost. Yet, when it comes to time, the currency far more valuable, they show astonishing carelessness. They trade it for gossip, distraction, empty chatter, or endless worry. They pay with their lives for what gives no return. And when the debt comes due when the years are gone, they cannot buy them back. Seneca reminds us that every choice is a transaction, and the currency is ours you will never hold again. But unlike money, the moral cost of wasted time is heavier because it reshapes your character. You can lose wealth and still remain yourself. You can lose possessions and still stand strong. But if you waste enough of your hours, you do not only lose moments, you lose the person you might have been. Each trade leaves a mark. To live in distraction is to become distracted. To live in anger is to become consumed. To live in pursuit of shallow pleasures is to become shallow yourself. The marketplace of money can bankrupt your purse. The marketplace of time can bankrupt your soul. This is why Seneca saw time as a moral mirror. The use of each hour reveals the truth of your inner life. If you give your mornings to discipline, reflection, and growth, you are a man who values strength of mind. If you give your evenings to noise and emptiness, you are a man who values nothing. There is no neutrality. Even idleness is a choice, and every choice writes your character in stone. To claim that you are a person of wisdom while living hours in waste is to live a contradiction. You cannot hide from the moral weight of time because time is what you are. Think of those who die young but live deliberately. Their lives are not short because they spent each day as a deliberate act of virtue, courage, and clarity. And think of those who live long but squander every hour. Their lives are not long but empty, stretched like shadows across decades with nothing within. The moral measure of time is not length but depth. A single day lived with intention has more weight than years lost in carelessness. Seneca's insight pierces the illusion. The value of life is not counted in years, but in how those years are spent. So the question presses on you with urgency. How are you spending the currency of this very moment? Is it buying wisdom, strengthening your soul, forging resilience, or is it draining away in exchange for nothing, vanishing into the pockets of distraction and regret? The moral truth is unavoidable. You are paying with your life, and the receipt will be written in who you become. To treat time as moral currency is to live with clarity. It is to weigh each decision not in convenience but in meaning. It is to ask, if I spend this hour, will I stand taller or smaller when it is gone? This simple awareness transforms everything. Leisure becomes purposeful. Work becomes meaningful. Relationships become intentional. Life ceases to drift and begins to sharpen into form. Seneca calls you to recognize the urgency. Time is not neutral. It is the most precious currency you will ever hold, and every transaction shapes you. Spend it with wisdom, and your life becomes a monument of strength. Spend it carelessly, and you will find yourself impoverished, not in wealth, but in the substance of your soul, the chains of tomorrow. Nothing binds a person more subtly than the promise of tomorrow. It feels harmless, even wise, to say, I will begin later. Yet every time you push a task, a dream, or a responsibility into the future, you are forging a chain that holds you captive. Seneca warned that tomorrow is the most dangerous illusion because it convinces you that life can wait. But life never waits. While you push things forward, the days behind you pile up, and what could have been lived is gone forever. The weight of all those postponed moments becomes a prison you cannot see until it is too late. Consider how often tomorrow has been the excuse for delay. Tomorrow you will start reading. Tomorrow you will begin exercising. Tomorrow you will mend that relationship. Tomorrow you will take the risk you fear today. But tomorrow is not a promise, it is a fantasy. It does not belong to you. The hours you surrender to it are hours stolen from your only certainty, the present. Each time you rely on tomorrow, you weaken today. You become accustomed to delay, and delay becomes your way of living. What began as a single postponed decision hardens into a permanent state of waiting. Procrastination disguises itself as prudence. You tell yourself you are preparing, planning, waiting for the right conditions. Yet Seneca reminds us that conditions are never perfect. To demand perfect timing is to demand what does not exist. Those who wait for clarity before they act, never act. Those who wait for courage before they leap, never leap. Those who wait for freedom before they live, never live. Tomorrow becomes their master, and they obey it willingly, shackling themselves with promises that never arrive. The chains of tomorrow are especially cruel because they appear gentle. They do not strike with sudden pain. They whisper comfort. There is still time. That phrase is enough to dull urgency, to calm conscience, to silence the call of action. But the comfort is false. The years vanish, and the person who always trusted tomorrow discovers that he has lived in perpetual preparation, never in reality. He has rehearsed for a performance that never began, because he kept believing it would start later. Tomorrow has stolen more lives than death itself, because death only comes once, but tomorrow robs you every day you trust it. Think of the weight you carry from unfinished tasks and unfulfilled promises. Each one is a chain tied to tomorrow. You do not escape them by ignoring them. You only add another link to the chain. The burden grows heavier, your freedom smaller, your will weaker. The mind becomes restless, not because the tasks are impossible, but because you refuse to live them when they were possible. What could have been done in a single day now feels unbearable after months of delay. What could have been simple in the moment becomes complicated through neglect. Tomorrow pretends to lighten the load, but it only multiplies it. Seneca's call is to cut the chain before it hardens. The only way to defeat tomorrow is to act today. Courage is not waiting for fear to vanish. It is choosing despite fear now. Strength is not something prepared in the future. It is forged by action now. Life is not waiting on the other side of time. It is here, demanding to be lived in this breath. To see this clearly is to free yourself. To ignore it is to remain a prisoner forever. Every person must decide, will you continue to live as a debtor to tomorrow, owing it the hours you never recover? Or will you reclaim your time as the one resource no future can guarantee? The chains of tomorrow can be broken, but only if you stop treating later as if it belongs to you. The truth is simple and inescapable. Tomorrow is a thief. The only liberation is to deny it your trust and to live as though today is all you have, because it is. The art of deliberate leisure. Most people believe leisure is freedom, but Seneca warns that without discipline, leisure becomes another form of slavery. To waste free time in trivial pleasures is to betray the very gift of rest. The Stoics saw leisure not as an escape from life, but as the highest use of life. It was the time to sharpen thought, nourish the soul, and recover strength for action. Deliberate leisure is the art of choosing activities that restore rather than erode, that elevate rather than empty. To understand this is to see that true rest is never idleness. It is preparation for deeper living. Look at how leisure is treated today. People call it rest when they scroll endlessly, when they sink into hours of distraction, when they indulge in noise that leaves them more exhausted than before. They confuse escape with renewal, amusement with joy, distraction with meaning. This is not leisure, it is surrender. It leaves the body dulled, the mind scattered, the spirit weaker. Seneca would say such leisure is worse than work because it wastes the one time meant for strengthening the soul. It pretends to give back, but only takes more. Deliberate leisure, in contrast, is an act of mastery. It is reading words that awaken thought. It is walking in silence to order the mind. It is writing, reflecting, conversing with depth, engaging in art, in philosophy, and contemplation. It is time used to become more human, more awake, more prepared for the demands of life. In deliberate leisure, every hour becomes a seed planted in the soil of character, and the fruit of those seeds is resilience, clarity, and peace. This is leisure that adds, not leisure that subtracts. The difference lies not in activity but in intention. Two people may both sit with a book. One skims mindlessly, seeking distraction. The other reads with focus, seeking wisdom. Outwardly, both appear at rest. Inwardly, only one is alive. The same is true for conversation, for art, for solitude. Leisure without purpose corrodes. Leisure with purpose restores. The art is in seeing that free time is not free at all. It is the most valuable part of life, because it is the part you can truly choose. Think of how many lives are wasted in leisure that gives nothing back. People spend entire weekends escaping into noise, then wonder why Monday feels unbearable. They have drained themselves with false rest. They return weaker, not stronger, because they confused relief with renewal. Relief numbs pain, but leaves the wound untouched. Renewal heals the wound and strengthens the body. Seneca knew that true leisure heals the mind and strengthens the will. Without it, life becomes a cycle of exhaustion disguised as living. Deliberate leisure demands courage, because it often feels harder than distraction. It requires silence where you are tempted to chase noise. It requires focus where you are tempted to scatter. It requires patience where you are tempted to flee. But the reward is profound. The person who learns the art of deliberate leisure no longer fears fatigue, because he knows how to restore himself. He no longer wastes life, because even rest becomes meaningful. His days carry a rhythm of strength, action sharpened by reflection, reflection deepened by action. Leisure is not the opposite of work, it is the partner of work. Without deliberate leisure, work becomes hollow. Without work, leisure becomes indulgence. Together they form the balance of a life fully lived. To master leisure is to master one of the most neglected arts of existence. It is to reclaim hours that modern life is eager to consume with endless distraction. It is to declare that even in rest, you will not waste life. Seneca leaves us with this challenge. When free time arrives, will you let it dissolve into nothing, or will you claim it as the hour that restores your soul? The art of deliberate leisure is the difference between a life wasted in noise and a life elevated in wisdom. To practice it is to discover that rest itself can become a weapon of strength, a shield of clarity, a source of unshakable peace. Living without borrowing. Most people never truly live their own lives. They borrow them. They imitate the desires of others, copy the paths of those around them, chase goals handed down by society without asking if those goals are worth pursuing. Seneca saw this clearly. Many men are not living, but only rehearsing someone else's script. They do not notice that their hours are being spent not on their own growth, but on maintaining appearances, on keeping pace with a world that does not care for their soul. To live borrowed lives is to surrender authorship of your existence, to hand over the pen, and allow others to write the story you will regret. Think of how subtle this borrowing appears. A man chooses a career because it was admired, not because it was meaningful. A woman measures her worth in the possessions and recognition that others applaud, not in what strengthens her spirit. People spend years pursuing images of success they never questioned, only to discover that the trophies mean nothing to them once earned. They lived decades borrowed from society's ledger, and when they finally demand their life back, the account is empty. What is left is exhaustion and the bitter taste of having played a part in a play that was never theirs. The danger is that borrowed living feels safe. It offers ready-made answers, ready-made goals, ready-made identities. You do not have to think deeply, only follow the current. Yet safety is an illusion, for the current is not moving toward freedom, but toward conformity. And conformity is not life, but the slow death of individuality. The man who borrows his time from others never discovers who he is. He becomes a reflection of external noise, unable to stand alone in silence, because silence would reveal how little he truly knows himself. Living without borrowing demands courage. It means asking questions that strip away illusions. What do I truly value? What do I truly want my hours to create? Who am I when the voices of the crowd are silent? These questions are uncomfortable because they force you to see how much of your life has already been surrendered. But they are also liberating because they open the possibility of reclaiming what is yours. Each hour lived in clarity, each choice made from within, is an hour no one can steal. Seneca reminds us that time is too short to live as a shadow. If you give your days to others' expectations, you will discover at the end that you never lived at all. But if you claim your hours as your own, even a few years lived authentically outweigh a lifetime borrowed. The substance of life is not measured by how closely you resemble the crowd, but by how deliberately you stand apart from it. To live without borrowing is to anchor yourself in your own values, to let your actions grow from reason rather than imitation, to live a life that is truly yours. Ask yourself, whose time are you living right now? Do your hours belong to you, or have you rented them out to the demands of others? The answer determines whether your life will end as a reflection or as an original. There is no greater poverty than to reach the end of your days and realize they were never yours. There is no greater wealth than to live even a single day fully owned, free from imitation, grounded in truth. The choice is constant in every hour you face. Borrow your life, and you will dissolve into the noise of the world. Own your life, and you will stand unshaken even when the world crumbles. Seneca's lesson is uncompromising. The borrowed life is no life at all. To live is to claim your time, fiercely and without apology. The reckoning of the final hour. There comes a moment when the illusion of endless days collapses. The last hour arrives, whether expected or sudden, and in that hour all the bargaining, postponing, and distractions of a lifetime are exposed for what they were. Seneca teaches us that death is not the thief. It only collects what was always certain to be taken. The real thief is wasted life, the countless days surrendered without thought, the years traded for nothing. In the reckoning of the final hour, every excuse vanishes. There is no tomorrow left to borrow, no future to push your responsibilities into. There is only the truth of how you lived and the weight of whether those hours meant something. Imagine standing at the edge of that final breath. What matters then will not be the possessions you gathered, the titles you carried, or the opinions others held of you. What will matter is whether you truly lived while you had the chance. Did you guard your hours as sacred, or did you scatter them like dust? Did you invest them in building strength of character, in love, in clarity of mind, in courage of spirit? Or did you let them dissolve in fear, in endless delay, in imitation of lives that were never yours? At the end, every wasted moment becomes a wound, and every moment lived with intention becomes a victory that cannot be taken away. The reckoning is not meant to frighten, but to awaken. To remember death is to remember urgency, to see clearly that life is not waiting to begin. It is already moving, already slipping through your hands. When you live with death in mind, you do not despair. You focus, you choose carefully, you act deliberately. You no longer trade your time as if it were worthless because you know the account is closing faster than you expect. Seneca's wisdom is a call not to fear the end, but to fear never having truly begun. Think of how differently you would live if you measured every day against that final hour. Petty grievances would lose their hold, envy would fade into irrelevance. Distractions would no longer tempt you because you would see them for what they are, thieves stealing from your last coin. You would live more simply but also more profoundly. Every word would matter, every act would have weight, every relationship would carry the intensity of something fragile yet sacred. This is the power of remembering the reckoning. It cuts through illusion and reveals what is real. The final hour is not just the end, it is a mirror reflecting the whole of life. If you meet it with regret, it will reveal how much you surrendered. If you meet it with peace, it will reveal that you lived as a master of your days. This is why Seneca insists that life is not short if you know how to use it. The tragedy is not that you will die, but that you might never live before you do. And now, as you reflect on this truth, recognize that the reckoning is not waiting for you at some distant horizon. It begins today. Each choice is a rehearsal for that final hour. Each moment is a chance to claim your life or to lose it. You cannot change the years already gone, but you can transform the hours ahead by deciding that they will no longer be wasted. This is the gift of philosophy, the power to live each day as though it were both your first and your last. The reckoning of the final hour asks only one thing of you: live so that when the end comes, you are not surprised, but ready. Live so that death finds nothing left to take, because you have already spent yourself fully on what mattered. And if these words strike you, do not let them pass like another hour unclaimed. Share your reflections, join the conversation, and subscribe so that together we can continue learning how to guard life as the treasure it is. This is not entertainment. This is your time. Do not waste it.